And Bob, can you hear us?
I can.
Perfect. We're all set to go then.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is 6:01. We'll call the meeting to order. President Trustee Sarah Masinski.
Vice President Trustee West.
Vice President for Finance, Trustee Allen.
Paige Barnum, Trustee and Secretary.
Trustee Jerry Goss.
Trustee Veneta.
Trustee Marlowe.
Trustee Jackson.
Executive Director Andrea Nicolai.
Assistant Director Melanie Metzger.
Director of Finance, Adam Stump. Sean Smith, Board Treasurer.
Thank you. Is there any public comment? All right. No public comment. We have a special staff presentation today. We can jump right to.
So, hello. I'm Stephanie Anderson. I'm the head of collection management services for APL. I have been in this role since 2018, but I have been with APL since 2014. And I oversee the digital purchasing, physical, all the things that patrons can borrow is what my department oversees. And this is going to be about our digital content at APL, specifically some recent trends and some things that we've been looking at. So we'll be going over the comparison of the two platforms that we currently use, as well as the lending models, because it's a little bit complicated when you purchase e-content. There's different ways, different prices, and all of that set by publishers, and it's super fun. User metrics, this is my favorite thing. We use our statistics every month, meaning our circulations, how many patrons, basically the who and what of what they have been using in our e-content. And then a quick breakdown of our recent digital spending overview. And after that, you'll kind of see what this is all about. So we'll just get right into it. So for those of you who might be Power patrons or Power users already, we have two platforms you can use e-content for. We've got Libby, which is run by Overdrive. Used to be called Overdrive. Libby is the user interface. So library staff from Upper Hudson curate this collection. We make the purchases. Staff determine what lending model we're going to use when we purchase those e-content licenses for Libby. Staff will evaluate the high hold demands. We'll also look at patron notify tags, as well as making sure that we're buying the newest releases and the newest content out there for our patrons. Hoopla is owned by Midwest Tapes. It's a competitor to Libby that is for the library market. Hoopla is completely patron driven. So Hoopla buys the licenses to the content. Patrons go on to Hoopla and borrow what they want. So the licenses are owned by Midwest. Libraries can set borrowing limits, which you may remember we had to make some changes this summer. We can limit the format. We can limit the cost point of the title, the number of borrows a patron can make each month to help manage those costs. But because it is cost per circ, it gets a little bit tricky to manage what Hoopla is getting used by our patrons. The content on Hoopla is also, for the most part, completely controlled by Midwest Tape. So what they have is what we have access to. When I talk about lending models, this is what I'm talking about. And I could have gotten even more in depth, but I kept it at the most basic. So for Libby, there are 4 types of lending models. So the ones that we preferred are the one copy, one user. This means that one user at a time can borrow a title, but the library owns that title perpetually. So it never expires, we never lose it. Right now, we are seeing most one copy, one user formats as being audiobooks. In the past, there were much, much more ebooks available as one copy, one user. For ebooks, the most popular format that we're seeing is metered access. The license expires after either 12 months, 52 months, or 54 checkouts, or 100 checkouts, or a combination of the two, which makes it super fun when deciding how much to spend on that particular format. The one that Hoopla uses that we have in our subscription right now that Libby also offers is called cost per cert, which is pay per use, meaning the patron will go in, borrow what they want to borrow from the collection, and the library is charged per checkout. This allows for multiple users simultaneously on a title. There's also simultaneous use, which is a benefit that we get with Libby for things like our magazine collection. We have a romance bundle. Simultaneous use will be what our Comics Plus will be starting next year, which will be comics and graphic novels, and it's simultaneous use. So the titles, the license is purchased, patrons can go in and borrow, and they're not going to have to wait. So it's one cost and you get that bundle. This is something that is also right now only in Libby and not available in Hoopla. So right now, when we're looking at our digital users, total over time patrons registered in Libby, it's 15,863, whereas Hoopla, it's 4,546. That just means patrons who have gone into that app over time, plugged in their library card number and their PIN. So they've accessed that platform. Also, side note, have had Libby or Overdrive in some form or another since 2006. I knew it as Overdrive starting in 2014 is when you started to see e-readers pop up on the market. So really think of since 2014 till now, total patrons who've gone in and at least created an account. I routinely look at our active users though. Our active patrons are the ones who go in and they borrow. So the last 5 years, we got Hoopla in 2020. So that's 5 years to compare the two. We still have the double number of patrons who are actively using Libby in comparison to Hoopla. And last month, and this is the one that I look at every month because I kept waiting for Hoopla to hit 600, 700, but consistently month to month, Hoopla is only averaging between 500 and 550 patrons. And that is important to look at for this. So when we think about how long we had Libby and the titles accessible versus the titles accessible in Hoopla, the checkouts are also going to be 2 to 3 times more in Libby. So it's double to 3 times as many patrons actively using it each month, as well as double to 3 times the circulations. But this is the breakdown of our digital content spending. And I simplified it. Over the last 5 years, you see what pay-per-use has had to do to what we're investing in Hoopla versus what we have had to sort of carry the same line in Overdrive. So year to year to year, we've had to adjust the e-content budget between those two platforms. And the demand is such that we've had to keep moving more and more into that Hoopla line. But when we look at Overdrive, because it's a shared collection and it's a shared platform amongst all the Upper Hudson libraries, we're also part of the consortium and we have a responsibility that we've agreed to through a consortium's agreement of what APL will purchase for the shared collection. And then what is left over after that agreement or that shared contribution, that's what's left for things that's considered the advantage line. So every year, Upper Hudson looks at patron usage. They also look at those patron statistics. What are people borrowing? And they break down how much each library, based on patron usage, each library is asked to contribute to that shared collection. So when we look at, we'll just go back again, that 70,000, that might be APL's budget line for Overdrive. But then I have to break it out between our APL contribution to the shared collection for new fiction only, which is those new releases in adult only. The second line, where it says APL ERO, this is the one I always have to look at my Post-it note. It's electronic reorder. So the second I buy one license, 10, 15, 20 patrons are going to place a hold. And that creates a hold ratio. I have to go in with ERO funds, which every library in Upper Hudson contributes to a collective pot and purchase more copies. So APL is asked to contribute 18,000 to that pot to purchase those high hold demands so that patrons aren't waiting months and months and months to get a copy of a book or an audiobook. The juvenile and young adult content is an APL allocation to the shared collection to make sure that we are purchasing juvenile and young adult materials. It's very, very easy to dump all of that money into holds and meet that hold demand. So we like to make sure that we are setting aside content for our youngest readers. And then at the very end, we have APL Advantage spending. Advantage is a separate account in Overdrive where we get to give APL patrons priority access to those titles. So if there is a high demand title, and I know there's a high demand title, and I've already contributed to the ERO, I've already contributed to the new, I will go in and dunk money into Advantage to buy one or two more licenses so that our APL patrons aren't having to wait 32, 48 weeks. So they get that title faster. So that's the breakdown of what has to happen for Overdrive. And this is unique because I can't do this with, there's no way to do this. So right now, one of the top selling titles, yeah, it is The Housemaid by Frida McFadden. Hopefully all of you have heard of Frida McFadden. She's sort of an out of the box bestseller this last year and a half. The Housemaid has recently been announced it's going to be a show. So it's like the new Sydney Sweeney model, I believe. I forget what streaming service it will be on. So everyone is trying to either read it or listen to it. And it is only available as audio. It is not available as ebook. It's a Kindle Unlimited ebook exclusive. FYI, tell your friends to stop emailing me. I've gotten 10 emails about this. So I have the audiobook in Libby. And Libby offers a concurrent user checkout platform. It's the closest you could get to apples comparison of Libby and Hoopla. So for $135, I can get 100 checkouts of The Housemaid in Libby. But cost per cert in Hoopla is $2.89. So you can sort of see that difference. And right now there's currently checked out 69 copies of The Housemaid in Libby. And this month, 24 checkouts in Hoopla. Because you have to go to a different app. So unless you're a power user, or you have a librarian or a member of staff telling you, oh, you can't get it in Libby, hey, check Hoopla. So people just haven't found it yet. But if all 69 people had gone to Hoopla to borrow it, you're looking at a double cost. So that's what we're really looking at. And then also Libby's variety of lending models is going to help us share this better. Because what I left off this chart was the one copy, one user versions that we also have. So there's still going to be more options for patrons in that queue, which 75 to 80 patrons are waiting on a title right now. But because I was able to use the ERO line, that shared pot that I purchased, to buy that metered access license, I was able to get more people to read the book or listen to the book before the TV show comes out next. And that's kind of like that sink in, like the math. There was a lot of math I could have done to break this down of what the cost per title would look like. Because just like a physical book, every time you want to buy a license, you're dropping a chunk of money to invest in only that copy. So looking ahead, Hoopla was initially purchased 5 years ago. 5 years ago was COVID-19. The board was a little bit different back then, but if you are our patrons, you remember that the library was temporarily closed to the public. So Hoopla was a great platform to offer our patrons additional access to titles that they needed on demand right away. When digital was really the only option for patrons to interact with the library before we went to curbside, slowly opened back up to the public. Over time, we have seen that the pay-per-use lending model within Hoopla has sort of created an imbalance in our digital content spending. So when you look at those monthly numbers of active users, 3% of APL patrons who are using digital content are using Hoopla. That's it. So of the patrons every month consistently using Hoopla and Libby, only 3% are on Hoopla. That's not a lot. And yet 30% of the digital budget has to be set aside and earmarked for Hoopla because we cannot predict and control those cost per cert prices. So in the interest of responsible spending, APL is going to be going all in on Libby. Libby is also more accessible right now on more devices. So Libby can be on an e-reader, so your Nook or your Kindle Paperwhite or your Kobo reader, as well as tablets. Hoopla, unfortunately, is only available on smart devices. Oh, and Libby can also get like a Roku, a Fire Stick, Chromecast. So patrons who don't have a tablet can also still use a Libby ebook. Libby allows for collection development by staff, and it also follows a more traditional library lending model. This is important because, again, Hoopla, we don't control the content on Hoopla. We don't control what that's going to look like. We can't filter out the languages. I accidentally downloaded a book last week in German because it tricked me with the cover art was in English. I was like, oh, sweet, it's on here. I didn't read closely enough, and it was a German edition. So oddly enough, it goes English and then German are the most popular languages on Hoopla. And I know it's because those cover art, they won't get us the international cover art images. There is also content on Hoopla that we have asked Midwest to remove, and it is hard for them to filter out the AI generated titles. It is hard for them to filter out the summaries. You think you're getting the whole book and you're getting a summary. So you're not getting the text. And that wastes your borrow for that month. And no matter how many times we ask Midwest to filter that, because there's more and more content published like that every day, it's hard for them to generate those reports. And patrons, it would be huge patron education to be like, make sure you're looking at the language, make sure you're looking at the summary, and this is the book you really want. And publishers aren't identifying whether or not content is AI generated. And lastly, Libby, we've had longer, we've invested more into it, and the depth of the collection is incredibly extensive. Upper Hudson has a really, really deep content collection, which made it very easy for us to reach out to consortiums that are close to us, Southern Adirondack, Mohawk Valley, and then Mid-Hudson. So we have a reciprocal lending agreement with the 3 closest consortiums. Now Upper Hudson is looking at wooing other consortia in the state. Say, hey, we have a really great collection. Look at the depth of our collection that your patrons could also benefit from. And so that would bring more RLA agreements to Upper Hudson, and that would benefit all the patrons. So if we go all in with Libby, it's a larger contributions that we can make financially to the shared catalog overall for Upper Hudson and for our patrons. That's it. No questions.
Hi, that was really awesome. Can you go back to where you compared the handmade to housemaiden? There we go.
Yeah.
I just want to make sure that I'm reading this right. So cost per circ, that's per like individual checkout?
Yep.
Okay, then I think your cost per patron,
Like cost
For
per
100
patron backwards.
I think it's supposed to be the same price as the cost per circ because it's per patron for 100 borrows, right? Or am I?
Well, no, because the cost, it's 100. Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I knew I was wrong with the math.
No, the cost is still significantly higher.
Yeah.
I want to make sure if you present this to someone else that's a bit more pedantic than I am, that they catch it.
I think
If 100 people borrow.
Yeah, if 100 people borrow that, which I think would be a great line to add.
So it needs to be flipped. That's all. Looks like cost.
100 borrows.
Looks like those need to be flipped.
Okay, got it. Yep.
Yeah.
That doesn't make.
No, under which, in the Libby column?
No, in the
No,
hoopla column.
In the Hoopla column?
Yeah.
No. Math columns.
It's, I see what
Not
you
200.
divided. Yeah, you divided by 100 on the other one and you were like, oh, then I'll
Yeah.
multiply by 100 on this one.
Well, yeah.
I do that.
100 borrows.
I do that 100 times. Yeah.
But it says cost per patron.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
no, yeah.
Which makes sense because you're doing cost per circ and then.
Yeah, you're right.
Okay.
So the cost per patron is really what?
The cost per patron is 200.
No, the
No.
The cost per patron is 289.
289.
If
Right.
100 patrons borrowed it.
Yes.
No, I got that. I'm just getting ready to figure out 289 minus 135.
Yeah, to get the difference.
Yeah. So that would need to be corrected because this is being submitted.
The
to
language.
board, is that
Yeah.
correct?
Yeah.
It's a good number. I like the number.
It's
I
getting
just want
submitted
to.
to the board as a report.
Yeah.
Libby is still.
Or she's just,
Yes.
so it
Yeah.
does.
Oh, it's still significantly less.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fine. No, I really like this
So it's
presentation
54 cents.
because I have never really understood $1.54, you said?
No, just 54.
Oh, 54 cents.
Oh, no, wait, maybe it is
Yeah, I think it would be $1.50.
$1.54.
That was
Yep,
at
you're
engineering
right.
school going to getting used.
I
My
remember
parents will be
it.
so proud.
Yeah.
I liked because I've never really understood the Hoopla model super well. So it's really nice to see it laid out like this. This is really clear. Thank you.
So my question is in terms of, when you say APL is going all in on Libby, does that mean that some of that 30,000 that has been budgeted or put towards Hoopla, is some of that then going toward Libby, or just that will be cut?
We're completely reevaluating Hoopla because we realize that it is not a sustainable model. So in the early part of the new year, you're going to be hearing a lot more from us about these two options and what is next for us. Like, we can't sustain Hoopla for the foreseeable future. So the right thing to do is to invest all of our digital content money into Overdrive, into Libby, for all the reasons that were articulated in the presentation. We feel that Libby is the much more responsible place to invest for the benefit of more patrons.
Okay, so that means some of the Libby budget will increase as the Hoopla gets cut out. Is that
That's correct.
the thought?
So Trustee West, I have a couple of questions that I was writing down. It was a great presentation. Thank you so much. So going forward, I just want to make sure I'm understanding. We will only have one option. Is that correct?
Libby is the place where we are going to be investing our digital content.
But no additional options, just one.
Just Libby
Okay.
and Comics Plus, which is the add-on that we're gaining through the central library budget. Or no, it's not central library budget. It's just a consortial spending decision.
So I see all of the data as far as Hoopla versus Libby. I guess one of my questions would be, how are we doing? How has Hoopla been advertised? How has it been? And I understand that it's not something that we can control, but how have we been advertising it? I wonder if a lot of people are even aware of it.
Oh, we've been advertising it
We've
pretty well.
been promoting it to the same level that we've been promoting Libby. So it's interesting to see that Libby has been so much more adopted in terms of the people who use Albany Public Library. I think, the places that we're looking at to communicate about this change are our website and the Upper Hudson app. We're also taking the step of sending a message basically from me to the Hoopla users that we have, explaining why we are going in this direction, because it's important. We actually can get email addresses for every single active Hoopla user right now. So that's a constant contact message that I'm going to be sending in the early part of the new year.
And I will say, in all fairness, I'm an avid Hoopla user, so I'm biased.
As am I.
I'm gonna say. So, and then the other part of that is that Hoopla for me definitely has titles that the library does not have. Then I think that I've brought this up before as far as authors' collections, right? So Libby will have an author's collection, and if it could be an author that's widely read, but then it won't have the entire collection. So, and I don't know how that is determined on which books to pull out. It's like Lynn Cahoon. There's only certain books in her collection that are there. So not all of the books are there. And then that in turn makes me say, well, let me check Libby or Hoopla and see what they have. And then additionally, if I'm looking for certain, so if I'm on my Christmas book, holiday book kick, I'm going over to Hoopla, how many holiday books do they have versus how many books are available in Libby. And Libby does have an extensive collection, but I do often see where it'll be one book and it won't even be the first book in a series. It might be book 3 in a series. And then you're like, okay, I'm not going to start at book 3. So you put in a request, say you want this book. And it could be 2-3 years down the road and you don't have it. Meanwhile, I can go over to Hoopla and just get the book.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That is a trade-off. However, I also want to offer that there's the reciprocal lending agreement, which gains you access to those collections in MVLS, in SALS, and it's something that we need to do a little bit more patron education on, because I think gaining access to those collections, those system collections, could offer you the books to fill in the gaps. In addition, of course, there's our physical collection, although I hear you, that's not what you're looking for when you look for a book in Libby or Hoopla. But it might be a question of a format change if you want to get all of the content from that particular author. Anything you want to add to that?
I'm a power Hoopla user. I use my Hoopla borrows. I already used all my 3 for this month because there was a series I needed and it wasn't in Libby. And I immediately went into Libby and I used the notify tag. Sure. So I highly recommend using that notify tag because that's a report I pull up every month.
I use it.
But the back end is, though, I have a report for 3 tags, 5 tags, and 10 plus tags. So you have to weigh, and I try to get a combo of those as well as when I do my holds, because I consider a tag a hold when I'm looking at those ratios. Because if that, to me, like a 5 holds or 5 tags from an APL patron, that's 5 checkouts. So that's worth it, that investment. I also have all of the reciprocal lending libraries on my Libby account. I also have New York Public and Brooklyn. And I don't want, this is on the internet, and another library that I'm not a current resident of, but a person. So I have found ways to get access through Libby to really get that advantage. And then also now with our website, the link where you can do a recommend. So patrons have reached out to be like, look, I've placed a hold. I have interest on this. Can you please look at it? And I take that seriously. And that again, that's a guaranteed circulation. That's a guaranteed use of those funds to get those. The other problem is licensing. So an author might have a collection of content, but right now I'm running into, and I don't want to mention the evil Amazon, but they are the Kindle Unlimited exclusive titles, the Audible exclusive titles. There is a very popular dungeon crawler, Carl, was blowing up on Kindle Unlimited and Amazon Audible accounts for a year and a half before they were accessible to the library market. So depending on the licensing agreements and the publishing agreements that publishers that the author has made, I might not be able to get them in Libby at all. And Hoopla was getting some of those titles faster, but Libby is working on it. Overdrive is aware that that was a problem with their competitors, is they weren't getting those publisher agreements fast enough because they're trying to get the best bang for our dollar. They're trying to make those publishing and licensing agreements, make it worth it for their customers and their base. Where Midwest was like, let's just get in fast. Let's just get the content to this stuff. And I don't know how they were getting some of those faster, but I just noticed Libby added Podium, which is a great audiobook publisher. So now there's even more titles that I wasn't able to purchase before that I can now get on Libby. And that was this month. Podium was a new partner this month. So Overdrive is constantly working to update those publishers agreements, but it might just be what the author has, where that copyright is held, and what Overdrive can and cannot get. So it might not be that we don't have the backlist of that author. We might not be able to buy it. And
So you're only able to buy certain works from the author, not all of their
depends on the
series?
contract. Yeah, it depends on the contract between the publisher and Overdrive.
Hmm.
And until we know to look at it, we don't know.
Right. And then you said, so I just want to make sure I heard correctly. You were saying something about Hoopla is not accessible on it's only accessible on tablets. Can you?
Only accessible on smart tablets. So if you have an e-reader, the e-ink, so like the Nook
Black and
or the
white.
Kindle Paperwhite with the e-ink,
No, I'm listening. Go ahead.
you can't get audiobooks. So if you want an audiobook from Hoopla, you have to have a smart device, like a tablet, a smartphone, or Roku, or a Kindle Fire Stick, or whatever you're using at home with a smart TV. Audiobooks aren't available on, we're seeing audiobooks being used the most on Hoopla because the audiobook wait time, you can't get them on the e-readers.
But that's also because there isn't enough to spend on audiobooks
Right, yeah.
in our Overdrive budget.
Yeah. Yeah, because we have to balance ebook and e-audio on my otherwise I would be spending every month, there'd just be audiobook, the higher holds
Right.
are there. And they also cost more on Libby. But
So you only mean as far as an audiobook that applies. That's what you meant. Okay. All right.
ebook?
Even if someone downloads the app on it,
Yeah.
on their e-reader?
Even if you had the e-reader, like the e-ink e-reader, you can't get an ebook from Hoopla. Is what we have heard. And also the Kindle Fire, for the longest time, Hoopla wasn't accessible on those. And that took a while to get the Kindle. So a Kindle Fire and Hoopla, they've made it complicated. It's like an extra step for patrons to download. So if you download a Hoopla book from the Hoopla app, you have to go into your Kindle account then to download it. Whereas Libby and Kindle have a better arrangement. So it's a little easier to get both formats on your tablet.
Mhm.
I have another question, and I'm not sure if we even know the answer, or you even know the answer, but I know the schools also encourage Hoopla use. Do the students need an APL or a library card to access that, or are they?
The schools actually have a partnership program with that taps into Overdrive. It's the Sora program.
Yeah,
And
so they
that's,
do.
so the schools are already like basically supporting and endorsing Libby more so than Hoopla in terms of what they're offering to students through the Sora platform.
Okay.
So that's
I feel like at least at the
interesting.
high school, they put both of them out. Like they put
They
them
put
both
both of
out
them
there,
out.
Hoopla and Sora.
But Sora is easier to get to our collection through because they can use their student ID or a library card to access the Libby collection via Sora.
Okay, and then with Hoopla, do they have to?
They have to have a library
have to
card.
have the library card, right? Okay.
I have oh, go ahead.
No, I was going to ask any more questions.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say it's like sometimes hard to see since I'm digital. I have a question. I know we acknowledge the like great value of having, I'm a big Libby user, and I often, when I'm hunting for a particular collection item and I see that there's a shorter line at one of the other libraries, I'm like, oh, I'll hop in this line. Is there any? I assume that library then gets the, circulation number. Is that accurate? I'm just sort of thinking like, is there a disadvantage to hopping into another library's line? And, even though I'm a Albany Public Library, that's like my home network. I'm sort of wondering, am I inadvertently shortchanging the circulation number I would love to give to Albany?
No. When you're hopping into that other library's line, you're using their one copy, one user copy. So reciprocal lending doesn't take away from their metered access copies. Upper Hudson doesn't loan out metered access. So when you're borrowing a title from another system, you're using a copy that they perpetually own. So yes, you're helping them get a circ, and that's fine because that just bolsters the positive message that we're sending with the reciprocal lending agreements in the first place. We have these titles, we want them to be borrowed.
Thanks.
Yep. Okay. And then if you guys have any other questions after this, can send them off to Andrea and we'll try to answer those. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
All right, moving along to the consent agenda. We'll hit each item. Are there any questions or anything about the minutes? Is that a no? Okay. The operating check register.
I have a question, but it's kind of related, but not all the way. Do we ever do ACH payments?
We do. Adam, do you want to?
Yeah, sure. So There's a couple of entries on the register. You'll see they start with EFT. That's essentially the same thing, an ACH payment that's made online. So right now we're just doing that with National Grid and the New York State Deferred Compensation Program. That's some of our employees participate in.
Okay. Capital fund check register. It was very short.
Just one big ticket item. I did see the new roof and it is beautiful. It's gray, it's watertight.
Yeah, all I
Say,
care about is
the
watertight.
library is dry,
In that one spot.
the electronics are dry.
Everything's dry. Yeah,
Excellent.
we can probably dismantle the funnel that is affixed to the ceiling tile in the front of the building now. So we'll do that.
Thank you. All right.
Waterfall.
Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda, including the minutes, check register, and capital fund check register?
I move to approve the consent agenda, minutes, operating check register, and capital fund register. Capital fund check register.
Trustee Benita, second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Thank you. All right, moving on to finance.
The three items included in the agenda present the library's 2026 fiscal year activity through the 4 months ending October 31st. The treasurer's report includes the two schedules. The first schedule presents the net change in fund balance compared to the budgeted amounts approved by the board. And then the second schedule presents a further breakdown of expenditures by category. Total support and revenue were in line with the approved budget, while total expenditures were slightly over the approved budget. The next schedule is the capital fund report, which presents the financial activity for the capital projects approved by the board. And then the last item is the cash and investment summary report, which presents the activity in the library's accounts during the reporting month. During October, the tax levy for the fiscal year was received from the school district.
Thank you. Are there any questions? I don't believe that we need a motion to accept this. So thank you. Moving on, trustees reporting out / upcoming events. Since I'm talking, I'll start. I attended the art opening on Friday at Pine Hills. It's great fun. The Albany High Band was impressive. Okay, so I was a science person. So there were actual artists there. So that was really cool. But it was nice. There were a lot of people and a lot of enjoyment of APL as a public space.
I unfortunately wasn't able to attend anything this last month, but tomorrow is the mural unveiling. And so I'll be at that and show up. You'll get to see me in person. Tell my fans.
I attended the recent 3-part series, Understanding the Vietnam War, that was led by an adjunct professor at Hudson Valley Community College, Michael Rivest. So my compliments to him. He was a very engaging presenter. There was a really thoughtful audience, despite some pretty cold weather. So it's always a very, enjoyable experience to attend history programs and have thoughtful conversations. So my compliments to Jim Davies for organizing that event.
She's not saying anything, but I'm gonna give a shout out to Jen Marlowe because she was also at the art opening.
Yes, I figured you had it covered, so.
All right. Anyone else before we move on? All right. The executive committee did meet. We met to discuss the applications that we received for the legal RFP. Yes, it worked their RFAs. So we discussed those. Meetings or notes are attached. We, do we tell them specifically now, or do we go to executive session? What?
This is 4-0.
4-0?
Look at the poll.
Oh, yes, you're right. The minutes the vote does need to be corrected. There was only 3 of us at the meeting. But we will, I believe, discuss later the results of what we want to put forward for that. So that is a sort of jumbled, I apologize, executive committee report. I am the Upper Hudson liaison. I was sick last month and didn't attend the meeting. There is not a meeting this month, but Upper Hudson did go forward with their budget. Trustee Marlowe, did you want to do FFAPL?
We met on November 19th and we met with Ashley Stewart from Every Library who has worked on various library budget campaigns around the country. And so we just generated ideas and talked about things that we can do and that they can also help us with, and kind of the role of FFAPL versus what goes on at the library specifically. And then let's see, and then donor perfect. Oh, we got an update that the website is going to be hopefully back up and running, as there was a subscription to Wix that just started up. And then we're going to meet with the donor perfect consultant to hopefully get that back up and running correctly and usefully, and having some people within FFAPL who know how to use it proficiently. So we have a consultant that we're meeting with on December 13th. And we heard from Director Nikolai, which I'm sure we'll hear some of that this evening as well. Oh, and then the bylaws. So we are supposed to go back over the bylaws. We ran out of time at the end, but there was a recommendation for essentially a subcommittee within FFAPL to look more closely at those and then bring it to the full committee.
Thank you. Right. Any upcoming committee meetings?
The Finance and Audit Committee is meeting on Thursday.
Thank you, Trustee Allen.
It's a little early, but just a heads up that the Personnel Committee meeting will be scheduling meetings as of March.
You are on top of things. All right.
That's the report for the report, was that, which we're just reading off of, was that in here?
That was FFAPL.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yep.
I didn't see that. Thank you.
I don't think there was a PNG meeting. All right, moving on, Executive Director report.
All right, so November was a real amazing month for the library in terms of all of the art programming and art that was just happening across the whole system. Obviously, the mural unveiling and reception is tomorrow evening. I hope everyone can make it to Arbor Hill West Hill. It starts at 6 o'clock, and Jade Warwick, the muralist, will be there, as well as a lot of community supporters. Our friends at Upper Hudson, our various community contacts throughout Arbor Hill West Hill, and I'm really excited to see the community receive this new work and celebrate it. We also have we're going to have food from Allie B's kitchen, so that's always exciting. And we're really grateful for the legislative grant for supporting all of that. We also unveiled the new art show at Pine Hills, and various trustees have already spoken to that, but we had a great crowd, and the B Flats were there playing fantastic music. So art programming and hands-on art programming continues to be incredibly popular at our library, and we consider it an important component of our STEAM programming. And that was a call that we heard from the community through our most recent program survey. And we continue to try and deliver on that promise of more hands-on programming. We were really, I was really proud of the all hands on deck effort that it required to deliver grocery cards into the hands of SNAP benefits eligible people on the 12th of November. We had an incredible opportunity with partnerships at United Way and DSS to get these grocery cards into the hands of folks who lost their benefits during the government shutdown. We had over 1,400 people through this building on that day, which is a stunning amount of people. We were not prepared for the crowd management that it would require, but we had a lot of great help with every manager who was on site, every staff member who was scheduled that day. Everyone played some role in supporting that ginormous effort of getting SNAP or getting grocery cards into the hands of people who were SNAP benefits eligible. Moving on to Friends and Foundation APL news. Jennifer Marlowe already covered some of this, but we did hear from Ashley Stewart from Every Library, and there is a huge distinction between what the Friends and Foundation can do to support us through the budget season and what the library can do in terms of an information campaign. So we learned a lot about that distinction that must be made. And we look forward to giving the community everything that they need to know in the lead up to our budget, as we always want to do. Adam, do you want to deliver the finance report?
Sure. Just very quickly, a couple of things. So we've been working on the fiscal 26 budget modification, which is going to be going in front of the committee on Thursday and then in front of the full board in January. And then just one key number that you're going to see on the fiscal 27 budget proposal is the New York State Retirement System's estimate of our expense for the year. It's approximately $755,000. That sounds like a lot. It is. It's 121,000 more than what was owed in fiscal 26 and 208,000 more than what was owed in fiscal 25. It's a very significant number and a big contributor to our current financial situation.
Thanks, Adam. Under community engagement, again, I want to focus on the SNAP benefits information that we were able to share through Albany County Department of Social Services. We really pride ourselves on being able to step in, being nimble enough to step in when we're needed in terms of helping other agencies share important information with the community in a timely way. So I'm proud of the efforts of the community engagement department, primarily through Rebecca Lubin and her library assistant, Aubrey, and then in programs and partnerships, I wanted to mention that we have a new collection of materials coming to each of our locations through a partnership with Bring on the Spectrum. And these are called Peace and Quiet kits. And they are bringing various sensory materials for use in programs and for use in the library space by anyone of any age who needs to use them. There are noise producing headphones, fidgets, wedge seats, and all of these kits are going to be distributed very soon, I think next week. So that's really exciting for anybody who struggles with sensory issues in the library space. They're going to have this new outlet, and it'll be a really easy process. You don't even have to have a library card to gain access to these collections. We'll be sharing more information about it with the community as we roll it out. I think I'll skip the branch highlights because we do have so much to cover, and there was a lot to that first presentation, but you have so many good things going on. I do want to also call out, particularly at Arbor Hill West Hill, the new sign that is now above the door to the branch. The branch has had signage, but it's been on a vertical pillar that's adjacent to the library. Now we have signage thanks to this grant money through former Senator Neil Breslin. We have a beautiful new Arbor Hill West Hill branch sign with Albany Public Library under it, so that when you glance up from the door, you can see that it's actually a library. Beyond being able to get the books inside, you'll know from the sign. So that's another thing I wanted to just call out. And then finally, we have a new head of public safety who is starting on February 2nd. His name's Mike Farcioni, and we're very happy about that hire, and we look forward to bringing him on and making him a member of our APL team. So thank you very much.
Thank you. That's a lot. All right, moving on to monthly statistics.
Thanks. I always forget I'm going to be up immediately again. So system statistics wise, excuse me, our room use is, it continues to be a shining statistic among our statistics. It's up across the board, except at North Albany. But North Albany then again has fewer rooms, fewer visitors. But moving on to programming numbers, we were a little bit down overall, but we saw increases at Arbor Hill, West Hill, Bach, and Pine Hills. Computer use is almost identical to last year, and it's remaining steady. And we continue to see significant decreases in reference questions across the board. However, there are probably a lot of different reasons for this. Staff are sometimes, ironically, too busy to actually indicate that a reference question has come in. We ask that staff make these little check marks on a statistics sheet at the reference desk. And there's a lot to do with the reference desk. So I'm not saying that that is the whole reason why. That would be false, but that and the fact that we have a lot of new staff who are maybe not aware of what could be classified as a reference question versus classified as a directional question. There's some education that we could do and should do along those lines. But in general, there's also the predominance of the internet, and, you know, there are all kinds of explanations for why our reference questions are down. But those are a few that I can come up with for you. So that concludes the statistics report for time.
Right, thank you. Right. Did you want to talk about door counts too?
You know, sure. Yes. Please, yes. Melanie's gonna get into a format change that we had to make to, was it museum passes, museum and adventure passes?
I was talking more about changing it from calendar year to fiscal year.
Oh, yeah, that one. Yes.
So starting in January, to better align the gathering information for the fiscal year. We've been reporting out statistics on a calendar year basis. So every time we say year to date changes, it's always been on a calendar year. That doesn't make sense when we're doing a fiscal year. So starting next month, see the statistics being reported out by the fiscal year instead of by the calendar year. So that would be one change you'll see next, starting next month. And with the museum passes, we were that, you'll see a little bit, circulation. Museum passage used to be part of Sierra circulation. Check out, like, would check out a book, and now they're being checked out by the SBN program online. So they've been pulled out. So right now you see like a really minuscule line in circulation, under 1%. Those are the museum passes that have been, they're being reported separately because they're not checked out like a book anymore. And with that, we realized the e-materials weren't broken out before as well either. So you'll be seeing it just e-materials, so e-audio, e-magazines, e-books, museum passes are all. Of course, you can see the breakdown of the e-materials as well, starting.
Great, thank you.
Just a quick question. So with the stats, switching to the fiscal year, is that gonna affect comparison? Or are you gonna do previous years?
I've redone all the information, so you'll have it compared to the previous fiscal years.
She's been working hard.
Hey.
She's also really good at spreadsheets. So, you know, what would take me a year takes her probably an hour.
Right. I felt like momentarily panicked. I was like, okay, great.
It's all still there. I went back for that.
Can you just clarify if I feel like I remember that they were previously on a calendar year.
We've been reporting the statistics out on a calendar year. But
when
I think you're talking about for the state report.
when we were doing the counts originally, I thought they were fiscal, then we switched it to calendar and then we switched it back. Now we're switching it back. I thought so.
That our fiscal year used to be a calendar year. So it used to match, but then when we changed everything over to the fiscal year being, what was it? 6 years ago, we changed it over to be, July through June.
Maybe I'm
Then
mixing.
out like door count.
Right, so maybe I'm mixing something up, but I specifically remember when we were saying that we were doing the door counts and you're like, wait, we have to do them over because we weren't doing them the right way.
That
And we switched it up.
It's the counting system
System.
changed. So it didn't have to do with the fiscal year, calendar year thing. It had to do with the entire way that we count people changing. And then we had to retrospectively adjust the percentage difference that we saw with the new system versus the old system. So that's what the special door count report is all about.
Thank you.
And going forward, that will all be because we've been reporting out that change for over a year now. So that will be just rolled into the rest of the stats starting in January.
So the door counts will be incorporated in the rest of the report instead of a standalone report, which we've been doing deliberately to call attention to the change, it'll be nice to see that as part of the rest of the statistics again, reunited.
More or just move on?
I think we can
Yes.
move on.
Can we hear door counts a little, please?
Oh, sure. Yeah. So our door counts for 2025, and again, we're still with calendar year, did dip in November. And we, there are any number of reasons why, they dipped a little bit, but they were still hovering just above the last year's numbers. So otherwise, we've seen pretty steady door counts that are at a healthy distance from the 2024 numbers in the right direction.
All right, any questions on door count?
Hold on, I'm just looking at North Albany.
I just have like
This thing
a
is
functional question.
flying through.
So when you're doing door counts, is there a way that we can adjust for like the snow day where we closed everything kind of unexpectedly so that we're not like seeing the numbers and then thinking that it dropped dramatically when there's just a random day off?
Usually we'll note that in the statistics section of the ED report, and that's what we'll continue to do to help give some context for the stats.
Perfect. Thank you.
And I know that we said we were going to review. I know I feel like I'm going over old stuff, but I did feel like we said we were going to go back and quarterly review or every 6 months review the hours at the branches.
That was done for the full first year of the new hours, which are now a few years old. But you have access to all of these statistics on a branch by branch level within SharePoint. And I don't know that everyone is looking, but we would be happy to help you navigate there if you want to really take that deep dive into our branch by branch statistics. I would encourage you because it's fascinating to see the nuances between, the branch use. And we'll be looking at that a lot more as we get into the strategic plan process as well. But I don't know that I answered your question. I'm sorry, Trustee West. Did you?
You did.
Okay.
I didn't realize it had been like 2 years already.
Time is crazy.
Well, significantly, we still see really healthy attendance at those Saturday programs. And that was the whole reason, that was a big part, I should say a big part of the reason why we made the change was to enable programming for working families. And those story times continue to be popular and they grow in popularity. So I'm encouraged by that. And, I think it'll be, again, interesting to see what comes through when we do all this community surveying through the strategic plan process that we're approaching.
All right, taking that as a segue, if there's no other questions, our unfinished business from last month is the appointment of the strategic plan consultant. I believe the motion is still on the table on the floor from last month, coming from committee to appoint library strategies. I did email everyone an updated budget. Oh my goodness, that was a hard word. An updated budget last week. Are there any additional questions?
Sorry, I just had a quick question, Trustee Marlowe, about so in the proposal, right, the community survey creation is included in the consulting, but number one of the 3 bulleted points about conserving the funds talks about all services structured in the library strategies proposal as optional, or APL will waive all services as optional or add-ons. These include data mapping, implementation, planning support, and translation of the community survey into languages other than English. So those things the library is going to take on, am I understanding this correctly or no?
The initial proposal that they sent out gave us options, sort of like tiers, right? Like you could do these things, and then for added money, you can do da 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 da.
Right.
And so those are the things that are not happening, and the library is not taking those on, to the best of my knowledge.
So the language, and if I can add to what President Masinski is describing, the translation and non-English surveys management option was 1,800 per language. Albany has, we have 5 languages other than English that are spoken in the school district. This is not like saying that we're not taking on the translation or paying for the translation services doesn't mean we don't get survey results or community feedback from people whose primary language is not English. Luckily, we have a lot of different formats that we can invite that feedback in, such as the focus groups that connect us with our partners at RISE and at other organizations that serve the immigrant communities in Albany. I'm confident that through those efforts and with the availability of Google Translate, which a lot of people whose first language is not English have made use of for various, purposes in their lives. I mean, whether it's a community survey or a job application or what have you, that is a strong tool that we can also promote to the people who are filling out the surveys. It's not perfect and it's not ideal, but we do not have the cash to pay for full translation services in all of the languages that we would need them for.
Any additional questions? Right, can I have a second to the committee's motion to appoint library strategies?
Trustee Jackson, second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Okay. Aye.
That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6,
And trustee West.
and 7. Thank you. All opposed? Any abstentions? 1 abstention. Passes 6-1, or 6-0-1, I think is the way it goes.
30 love.
Well, I just want to thank the board for the support and say that we're really excited to work with Library Strategies. I think it's going to be a really robust process. And what? 7, yeah, that's right. That's right.
Math has not been our strong suit today, guys.
Yeah, it's well, it's late. Thank you very much, though. We're really looking forward to working with this group, and I think you'll enjoy them as well. They're real professionals and very, very knowledgeable about library services across the country.
All right, moving on to new business. The first item is appointment of the legal services firm. Just confirming it's okay to discuss what executive committee did and questions here in open meeting. Okay.
We didn't go in an executive session.
Okay.
I was gonna say all of our meeting was, like Trustee West just mentioned, open.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Sorry, I just want to make sure I'm doing it right because I don't know. So executive committee did meet between our last meeting and now. As we had mentioned in the last meeting, there was an RFP that had been sent out for legal services. We received 2 applications. The executive committee met, reviewed both applications, and would like to propose going forward with Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah. There was a motion to address the conversation, included some of the difficulties that have happened in the past. So the motion that executive committee is putting forward is to recommend Whiteman, Osterman, and Hannah to the full board as counsel for the length of term outlined in the RFP, with language regarding professional conduct be added to the engagement letter. There is not yet an engagement letter.
Anything attached for this?
In the executive committee meeting minutes.
Did you have an example of what that language would look like, or just gonna review it later?
I will let. you
So
go
I
then.
would say so my thought is that we give them this information and work to come up with language that will be approved by us prior to signing the engagement letter.
Okay, that works for me. Thanks.
So just so I have this correct, we're about to vote without any of that, though, right? Or no?
We're voting on, do we want to keep we're voting on, as long as we're voting on them, but it's with the stipulation that they add that language, that they add professional conduct to the engagement letter. However, you are correct, the actual terminology for that language is not, we will be voting prior to seeing the language, but the language would be voted on by the board. So it wouldn't be them just saying, this is the language is A, B, and C. The board would look at the language and say, we don't agree to A, B, and C. We agree to A, B, D, and E. Just as a 30,000 foot view. And if trustees have thoughts on the language and want to send in samples or examples of language to use, that's definitely. But the other piece of that is we only received 2, so we should talk about that as well. Only received, because it doesn't, yeah, 2 RFPs were received, and it had been posted for at least 6 weeks.
Isn't that fewer than the first? Didn't we get 3 the first time around or no? Or it was also 2? Oh, okay.
It was also 2, and then the first time around, Whiteman, Osterman, Hannah was one of the applicants, and there was a different firm that we saw the first time around that they did not reapply. It was a new firm, we'll say. So it was a different second RFP applicant this time around.
Was there outreach to the previous firms that applied?
Mhm.
Did they make any comment as to like why they didn't send it another RFP or?
I don't know. My understanding is that when when the firm that did not apply this time was told what was happening, they were asked to please apply again in the fall.
I understand that. I'm saying this go round when the library sent out the RFP, was their personal contact made to the firm in reference to there being a new RFP out and requesting
No.
where else was this posted?
It was posted in the Albany Business Review and the Times Union for the duration of the time that the RFP was available. And it was on the library website, of course.
My understanding was just that there was going to be some more outreach post to last time because we had such a low response that there would just be more outreach, proactive outreach in reference to people applying, firms applying.
I think the outreach was done. I think it's just really hard to get people to respond and companies to respond to RFPs. And it's just depending on where that specific company is at a space and time. And I think, did you also say it went to the Albany Law School?
It went to the Albany Business Review, not to Albany Law School. But it's also worth noting that there just aren't that many firms that specialize to the extent that Whiteman and certain other firms specialize in library law. So there's that as well. But we did share the posting information and the RFP link with the board so that you would be able to do any additional outreach that you wished to do.
Trustee Ellen, were you saying, or
I was just gonna mention that the other firm had no direct experience in working with libraries, so the letter from their RFP talked about work they had done with municipalities, but it was not, as deep level of experience as Whiteman.
They were also like twice as expensive.
Yeah, and those are on the SharePoint if folks want to look at those.
Yeah, I don't think that's the issue, to be quite honest. I think the issue is, again, we're left with one option. And so that's what it is. So hold on one second. So I thought about that. So we're talking about this, but
Because Whiteman is here.
was asking.
okay. So yeah, so let's take it into executive session and discuss it a little bit further. We'll table it for now and take it into executive session.
All right.
Is there any other information that people feel that they might need to make a vote on it in executive session?
There's additional information I would like to provide in executive session.
Okay, tabling that for now. Moving on to the staff engagement survey.
Well, a good staff picture.
Trustees, before you move on to the next item, as President Masinski and Director Nicolai know, I've got to step off for another meeting. I'm available just by a text to hop back in if you need any assistance, but I'm going to step off for a second, okay?
All right, thank you.
I know.
All right.
You gotta go.
So I want to make sure that the viewers are seeing the full presentation slide and not the notes. Not that I have anything to hide in the notes. I'm just making sure. Because
No presentation notes, you're good.
sure.
This is
All good?
Yep, looks good.
Okay,
it's just
great.
delayed.
It's delayed, yes. All right, so this is, albeit I'm a little bit biased, but this is my favorite survey of the year. We've been doing this survey for 3 years. We've been using the same questions, and we are eager always for these results because we have this side-by-side comparison. We have incredibly good response from staff. Each time we release the survey, we get about 84 responses, and we don't have that many more staff members on staff. So it's a really amazing result. And it speaks to staff trusting that this survey is real and that it is anonymous and that it is important. And that our staff are also just reading their emails, which is fantastic. So as you'll see, we've made positive strides in some areas and we have more work to do in others, which is pretty much always the case with with this particular survey. First, I want to mention that I apologize. It's a little bit difficult to see the X and Y axis because the font is quite small, but the Y axis on each of these slides shows increments of 10 up to either 60 or 80 or sometimes 50, depending on the outcomes for each question. So obviously each one represents a person. So it's not a percentage, it's an actual one-to-one ratio. So in this, how do you feel about work slide? We do notice, obviously, the dip from 2024 to 2025 in terms of solid positives, which is offset by a slight gain in very positive, which is good, and a slight gain in slightly negative feelings, which is not so good. I suppose that all things considered, we can count it as a good thing that people are feeling confident about being less neutral in the survey. So they are reporting out how they actually feel about work. And this, again, is an anonymous survey. We really rely on the comments that come up at the end to inform our next steps. So I'm going to move kind of quickly through these, and we'll focus on the comments at the end for the most part. This continues to be a good news slide year over year. People really enjoy working with their respective teams, and that's not just branches. Each branch is considered a team, but we also have, of course, an IT group. We have a facilities group. We have a communications group. So this is each team within APL, including the non-public service facing teams. This continues to be another good news slide. People are generally proud to work at the Albany Public Library, which is a wonderful thing, and it shows up in the work that we do each and every day. This slide about finding your work at APL meaningful also continues to be a positive result. We do look forward to, and we're determined to convert those often responses to yeses. This next slide, does your work challenge you and aid in your development? It's important to note that how staff define the word challenge kind of influences how they respond to the question. Do they see challenges as a good thing or a bad thing? We can't know, but our intention behind this question is that challenges are a positive part of the job, and working through them really helps staff develop their skills and effectiveness. So we are never going to stop prioritizing staff training and development, and we do hope to see more yeses next year. A lot of Melanie's job has to do with supporting staff through training and professional development. And it's also true that finding the time for training and development is sometimes a challenge given the really intense schedules and schedule changes that we make on a daily basis. So with those notes, I'll move on to the next slide. Do others provide you with positive recognition? For the most part, that is a positive result, either positive or often or sometimes. We need to support and encourage managers in recognizing staff accomplishments. And we're actually going to be looking at establishing a recognition program at APL that recognizes outstanding work that supports our mission. So I'll be working with Melanie with the Staff Development Day team to develop that program. And if any of you have good ideas from your own workplaces about staff recognition, I would be really eager to hear from you about them, because it's difficult to develop one that doesn't lean into like favoritism or, have some sort of challenging optics aspect. So I'm eager and open for feedback on that. Does your current compensation meet your needs? So this slide has not changed a whole lot year to year. More than half of our workforce feels that their compensation does not meet their needs. And that is something that we can only address with sustainable budget practices, which we're very focused on as we head into the budget season this year and in future years. And I'll continue to work with the Audit and Finance Committee. Obviously, compensation is also negotiated with CSEA. So we will continue to plan for better compensation as our budget allows. Does APL's culture foster a comfortable, supportive work environment? It's interesting to look at this slide in comparison with the slide that follows it, which I'll quickly switch to for a second. Are APL's managers and leaders invested in improving the library's culture? There's definitely a strong relationship, and in fact, these slides kind of match each other. There's a strong relationship between managers and leaders feeling invested in improving library culture and staff feeling that they work in a comfortable and encouraging environment. So calling back to the support that we need to show for managers and the example that we need to set for managers to support their staff and to reward their staff and give positive feedback will continue to be an important area of growth for APL. Do you see yourself working here in a year? We saw a slight rise in the no category, which represents about 10 people. And obviously we want to make those people happy. So we're, and again, I'm going to focus you on the comments in pretty short order because they tell us a lot. Would you recommend APL as an employer? Luckily and fortunately, we can rely on, for the most part, staff being able to freely recommend us as an employer, which is a really good slide to end on in terms of the straightforward questions. And I also want to take a moment to give credit to our HR generalist, Arena Dacey, for all of the really hard work she does to support our staff at APL in all of their various needs, both personal and professional. In terms of categories of feedback, we saw 5 categories, generally speaking, and we do code all of the comment results into categories when we receive them. So compensation, communication, culture, support, and top-down decision-making were major themes that arose in the comments. As far as compensation is concerned, and again, these were the staff members who actually elected to add a comment. This was not compulsory. The open-ended comments were not compulsory. So there is, among the people who took the time to comment, the basic dissatisfaction with wages, perception that wages have not kept up with inflation overall. There is also a sense that part-time staff would like to see health benefits, better compensation. Again, a lot of this goes back to the contract, the collective bargaining agreement that we have with CSEA. A lot of obviously the work rules that apply to part-time staff and the benefits rules that apply to part-time staff are negotiated with CSEA. So, we'll be looking at those opportunities to examine how we support our part-time staff and how we could better support them. As far as communication goes, management communication was definitely called out. More communication between levels of staff, greater manager visibility. That means managers attending programs or seeing what their staff are doing, being, walking through, being a presence, and evidence that managers are listening, actively listening to staff when they want to talk and share their concerns or whatever it is. So we're committed as a management team to responding to these questions and these concerns that have come up about communication. Part of my commitment to the leadership team at APL is to bring everyone together on a quarterly basis starting in January. So whereas before, the leadership team would pretty much get together as part of a larger supervisors group that included branch managers, I'm going to be bringing together our leadership team and defining it more distinctly as not only the services team, which is Melanie and our community engagement head and our programs and partnerships head, our communications head and our head of branch services, but also our facilities team and our IT team and our CMS team. So that is going to be a way that I respond as the leader of the organization to bring the leadership team together and get us talking and get us with a shared understanding of where the organization is heading, whether it's because of the strategic plan or because of other goals that we're trying to achieve together. Long-term goals, staff just want a better sense of long-term goals from leadership. They're definitely going to get that through the strategic planning process, and I'm excited to get into it. And there's also some misunderstanding around volunteers and interns and their roles. There are staff who have the misunderstanding that volunteers are taking the place of staff in some circumstances. That is definitely not the case. We have a very clear boundary that's articulated in the CBA about what volunteers can and cannot do, about what our intern roles are, which are also defined by our community engagement department. The other step that we're taking in terms of communication, addressing communication, is looking at our staff portal, and that's the intranet for the organization, and that's where we have an opportunity to more clearly describe the community engagement department, the programs and partnerships department, and their various roles, so that everyone has a clear understanding of not only what the departments are and what they do, but also the committee opportunities that exist within those departments. We are a complex organization. We're a big library system for, that has a lot going on at all times. Culture-wise, there's an acknowledgement that public library culture in general is meaningful and also has its challenges. And that's where we see safety concerns come up and just general like the psychic load of serving members of the public and doing direct service. So we're mindful of that. We also remind staff of the tools that are available to them in terms of supports. EAP is an important support. Our intern, who is a social work student at UAlbany, who is fantastic, and she has really helped follow up with staff and connect staff with some of the services that can further support them in their work stress. There's a perception of cliques and bullying among certain teams, and again, because it's an anonymous survey, we have to rely on staff to report these instances to HR, and that's what we're going to be encouraging staff to continue doing. It's one thing to write about it in an anonymous survey. It's another thing to actually bring it to light and give it air with the HR generalist. So that's what we are going to be encouraging staff to do, so that we can address we want everyone to feel comfortable working here. And that ties in with healthy environment, respect for coworkers, and there were a couple comments about evaluations and the perception that you cannot achieve a 4 out of, the 1 to 4, with 4 being exceeds expectations. We really consider 3 to be like, you are doing an awesome job and you are doing your job fully. And so for staff who get a 3 and they're overachievers and they want that 4, or not overachievers, but just achievers, they want that 4. This is a communication issue that we have with regard to how we treat this evaluation process at APL. Getting a 3 is not, it's good news. It's really good news. A 4 is if you truly go above and beyond in some way, shape, or form. But I think articulating the ways that you can go beyond is where we have like a growth opportunity and a communication opportunity. Moving on to support, Washington Avenue work conditions continue to be concerning. Staff see the incident reports that occur about incidents here, whether they're emergencies or, violent, nonviolent. They do see the reports and they are concerned for their coworkers. Staff here are concerned for their own health and safety. And we continuously address those health and safety concerns with training, with our head of public safety position, and through incident follow-up. That said, we're always trying to get better, trying to do better, and learn from our peer urban libraries and put in place good practices to support staff in their roles as frontline staff. At the North Albany branch, there are some morale issues, actually not just at the branch, but also across the system. There's a perception that North Albany is not, it's a perception, but it's also, when you look at the statistics, it's the reality that North Albany is a lesser used branch among our full system of branches. Now, that said, there are perceptions among staff that perhaps North Albany should not exist, or North Albany should be looked at differently.
Slapping that arrow key to move the slides forward too.
You hear us now? Okay, here we go.
I wonder where I left off.
At top-down decision-making.
Oh,
We stopped being able to hear you on Zoom when you started talking about the North Albany branch specifically.
oh, okay. Okay.
But-
Well,
Slides.
yeah, the slides do also, yeah, I, first of all, apologies to the listening audience. I'm sorry that our audio dropped out. Already fixed it, and please let us know if it happens again. What I was, and I'll just briefly restate that the North Albany branch, just the numbers continue to not be as strong as some of the attendance numbers, both in terms of branch attendance and program attendance that we've seen at our other branches. So there is this perception that North Albany, that the resources, the amazing staff resources at North Albany could be better used if they were spread around to the other existing branches. And that's not a decision, obviously, that's even in it's not in the ether right now. It's not something that's on the table. It's something that we may need to look at down the line, but this survey was just about staff perceptions. That's what I'm speaking to today. So that was the root of the morale issue in terms of North Albany. Is that clear?
Yes.
All right. I'm going to move on to the last slide, which is top-down decision making. So there were a range of concerns about top-down decisions, and I believe that they can be addressed with improved communication from managers. There are categories of library service, and I would call out our amazing IT department as an area where sometimes top-down decisions have to be made because of a change in a software update or a change in a service provider vendor contract that we see as maybe being exceedingly cost effective and something that we want to try. But when we implement these changes, we have to be really clear with staff about why the change is happening, how it's going to affect them. And part of this is also encouraging staff to read their email and to use the communication channels that are available to them. I think, we do a good job of passing on information in branch manager meetings and in supervisor meetings, as well as through our email system. But, it takes some engagement from the other direction too. So I would say that some of these service and procedural changes, we did a good job of communicating about through those channels, but sometimes you have to repeat things more, especially for new staff who may arrive and find something challenging and they don't understand why it is the way it is. So I think we shouldn't be afraid of repeating the rationale for the changes that we make, not forgetting that that new staff are always coming on board, and that it's worth reminding people why we do things a certain way. Manager accessibility, open door policies would help reduce those perceptions of top-down decision making, and that's something that I support all of our managers having, and that I try to have myself. Although there are times that I need to close the door, but I do keep a calendar that anyone can see, and anyone can see where the openings are in that schedule. So I think making it known that staff can approach their supervisor and that they can also approach me, although sometimes the answer will be, well, I support you in speaking to your supervisor about that. But I think just generally, just encouraging that open channel is important. We also made a major change to our health benefits, and that was something we bargained with CSEA. Some staff felt excluded from that decision, and that's, I think, a challenge where the library needs to communicate, but CSEA also needs to communicate with its membership. And I think we can work together on that communication and improving it. So this, the health benefits change that we enacted for the latest enrollment period, which started December 1st, that was a major change. Every single person on staff had to switch health plans. That's not a small thing to bring about. So we had multiple information sessions. We had, emails that went out about the change. We had services available from our broker, Marshall and Sterling. We had services available from CSEA and the health benefits expert on CSEA staff. So there were a lot of different supports available, but it's also true that, if the staff just didn't want to see their health benefits change, they're going to be irritated about that no matter what. So that was also a top-down decision that definitely negatively impacted some staff. But yeah, that's basically the conclusion of the report for this year. The other thing I want to mention is that I'll be sharing this, like all of this survey material and information with our strategic planner. So even though we are not, using them for a staff survey, we're going to give them all of our data from our own staff surveys, and they'll have, at this point, I think 4 years worth. We only included 3 years in this particular report out, but we have 4 years of data. So that'll be useful for our consultants, I think, to get a sense of who we are. Any questions?
I just had one quick clarifying observation or question. Was there a question number 11?
I'm not sure. Tell me more.
So go back to your slide.
Yep.
And it jumps from 10 to 12. So that's why I'm like,
Yeah.
was 11 missing or
That
go all the
was
way back?
just
What? Going. Stop.
Yeah.
Go back, go forward. 10.
12,
ahead.
and then it goes to 12.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't know if
No.
11 was missing or if it was supposed to be 11.
I do not believe any of them were missing, but I apologize for that little mishap there. I could get back to you. I think Melanie's checking right now, actually. So, but I do not think we missed a question. I think that was just a misnumbering. But we'll get an answer by the end of this meeting for sure. Thank you very much.
I have a quick question. So you said these are raw numbers, right? Not percentages.
These are raw numbers.
And so from year to year, you say you average 84 respondents, but
Yes.
it could vary slightly from year to year, right? I mean, in terms of like comparing the years, the number of
That's
respondents.
true. It would vary very slightly though, because I think the first year was like 79, the next year was 82, then it was 84, then it was 84 again or something. Yeah.
So it's not
So it's very close,
exact,
but it's
okay.
not exact. You're right.
Great job.
Online trustees, do you have any questions before we move on?
Nope.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Andrew.
Wait. Officer Melanie has a.
Oh, yes, Melanie.
Question 11 was, what practices do we need to change in order to improve your engagement at work? So it wasn't a graphical question. It was an open-ended question that was covered with the comments.
Great, thank you. Is there any new public comment? Thank you.
Board evaluation.
Oh, my goodness, I forgot all about the board evaluation. And it's sitting right here to remind me. You all have your board evaluations. It is also linked to in the agenda. Please fill it out and get it to Erica. Thank you. All right, is there a motion to move to executive session?
I move that we go to executive session. Trustee West.
Trustee Benita second.
One quick question. I think you need to identify for what purposes for the legal element of it.
For the purpose of discussing the legal RFP.
All in favor?
Okay.
Yeah.
Preston Benita, all in favor? Anyone, all opposed? Abstain? We're in executive session. Thank you.
Okay, for all those watching from home, the board is going to be entering into executive session. Any vote that will be taken afterwards will be reflected in the minutes. Thank you very much and have a good evening.
Bye, thank you.